what you need.
I throw diamonds at the strip club under the Great Pyramids.
This ain't nothing to me, man. All right, let's see how far we can get in this without referencing pop culture.
Language is pop culture.
I don't know about that.
Certified lover boy. Certified. PDF filed.
I think language is just sound. Sounds that we all mutually agree have meanings. But it's sound.
I don't know, it's pretty popular. You just defined it as a cultural construct. So, language is pop culture.
I don't think it makes it pop culture. It's like...
Language is culture.
Yeah, I think it's just humanity.
Pop culture is represented by language because that's how you communicate anything. No
That's how
culture exists
ideas are
without
shared.
language necessarily.
I feel like culture can exist through artifacts without language.
Well, artifacts, but that's a form of language. It's like saying sign language isn't a language. It's an artifact. It's a physical thing.
Well, for many years, like the Egyptians had hieroglyphs, which is a form of language using pictures.
That's true.
GIFs.
I think what defines language
Emojis.
is referencing something outside itself. And I guess my argument is that cultural artifacts don't have to reference something outside themselves. Like any symbol system that is able to suggest a state of affairs in the outside world, we could call a language. But like pottery doesn't suggest something about the outside world. But if you have a tradition of making pottery, I'd call that culture.
I feel like on the baseline, I agree with that. Though, every art form, I mean, specifically music, you see people giving callbacks to, if you're in the know, you understand what's happening. Like the glaze you use can be a callback to a certain other thing, like the different firing methods, the different techniques you use. It can all come back to a like acknowledgement of other artists, and that's why you have your stamps used. Silversmiths have their signature designs that they put on things.
Graffiti artists have their tags.
All that, yeah. Everything just comes back to, yes, the premise of a thing itself. It's not language, but it can be culture. But we make everything into language.
Yeah, and it's hard to transmit culture without language. Like you can show somebody through example how to graffiti a wall or make a pot, but it's not going to expand. It's not going to evolve unless you can have like conversations about it. Like start to assign meaning to this cultural artifact through language.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like pop culture in and of itself, like, is where that kind of breaks down. But I do agree that art almost requires a certain level of language for it.
The next part of the discussion is how do we define pop culture? I don't really find a useful distinction between pop culture and high culture, aside from like class.
I assume pop culture is just whatever is the pressing thing at that moment in time. Pop culture has been dynamic all throughout human history. I mean, even if you go back, 5 years, like memes were different. Like everything throughout time.
I mean, memes, even a lot of them weren't really pop culture until very specific ones. I feel pop culture is the like overarching, what can a majority of humans in the society all get behind? It's not like...
For most of the history of culture, culture was something for people who were cultured, quote unquote, who were literate, who could read and write, and that's how things were transmitted. And so the majority of people didn't have culture in that sense. They just worked their farms.
I like to think that they still had memes back then.
They had their little local memes.
Yeah.
I think that's just inside jokes at that point.
And that's what a meme is.
Yeah,
It's,
more or less.
in Rome, they had the, I forget what it's called, but it's like a grid where you had letters on it, and like any way you read the grid, it would be a different word.
And even in like World War II, they had like the Kilroy was here or whatever. I feel like memes in general have always been kind of the forefront of pop culture, albeit they have historically not been called that, but that is like the modern lingo. but I feel like memes in and of themselves are ingrained in like humanity. Like humans have a deep desire to take the world around them and make humor out of it. Like I think like there's no way that like during the Black Death, like they didn't have like jokes about that.
Ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies.
Yeah.
Yes, humans haven't really changed that much. In general, it's just, I mean, technology around them has changed.
Yeah, the way that we can share information has changed. It's basically the same thing, just
We're just out here
time.
doing our thing.
yeah.
It's enjoyable. Humans are goofy.
Now, according to the original definition of meme, all culture is memes. It's a memory gene. It's a unit of information that gets passed down and evolves and takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that because humor is one of those things where the subject matter changes and humor is almost something that becomes almost instantaneously dated because even jokes about like the 2020 pandemic, it's like, okay, well, it's 2024, it's kind of boring. Like it's like find something new to talk about. And I feel like all humor is like that. Humor in and of itself is funny in the here and now, but like as soon as it's consumed, I feel like it's almost loses its edge, it loses its impact.
A lot of different kinds of humor, too. And I feel like humorous irony is something that does tend to last longer.
Yeah.
I don't know, just thinking about Shakespearean plays and stuff. It's a somewhat different culture, but a lot of the like farcical situations you can kind of resonate with just because humans have limits to perception, and those will always be true. Like knowledge of the pandemic is something that's specific to living in that time, and for those of us who lived through that time, it is now something that's kind of trite, cliched.
There's a universal thing about being accidentally turned into a donkey and then seduced by a forest nymph or fairy or whatever the heck happened in Midsummer's Night Dream.
You talking about Shrek?
Oh yeah, that's the one.
That dude
Yep.
totally fucked a dragon.
No.
Shrek is a universal story.
Yeah.
All cultures have the Shrek myth.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like I watched a video about this and Donkey was originally like a boy who had been turned into a donkey, which is why he can talk. But then in the opening title card of Shrek 1, I think it was, when Shrek was like taking a shit and he like ripped the page out of the book to like wipe his ass, it was telling of a story of a princess who had turned into a dragon. And so I think Donkey, he knew what he was getting into. He knew that was a badass princess.
He's going for it. Yeah, you can't convince me that Donkey wasn't originally a donkey. Like, I feel he's a donkey who got human characteristics bestowed upon him rather than the other way.
I don't know.
Because if he was a boy who transferred, like, he's still a boy. He's not like a man who transferred, and then that's sus as hell if it was a print, like...
Well, I think it was like a boy, but then this happened like a while ago. I don't know. I don't know the lore as well, but I feel like Donkey was a human.
I like to think Donkey was just a donkey doing his donkey thing, and then suddenly he can actually talk.
He's a donkey with like hella riz.
Yeah.
A donkey wanting to fuck a dragon makes a little more sense than a human trying to fuck a dragon.
Well, I think it's a human trying to fuck a princess.
He didn't know it was a princess.
He just happens to be a donkey and she just happens to be a dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, that actually does sound like a good ass love story, but no, I'm going with the donkey with the princess.
That's kind of weirder.
I mean, hey now,
You're an
You're
all-star.
look at the story of Pinocchio. That's weird as hell. Dude, I still want to see the, not Robert.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yes. Not Metallica bass player. Not his version of Pinocchio.
I'm curious to see like how he would spin the Pinocchio story.
Only thing I can talk on is the beginning where, yeah, it's his mourning the loss of his son, and he goes out and just builds Pinocchio to like cope with the loss of his son. and then that's where everything takes off from. And yeah, it's much darker and more focusing on. It's more of on the.
It's like mental illness. Like Pinocchio is not actually alive. He's just very mentally unwell.
Oh, I mean, that could be one way. I was gonna say it's more on like the Frankenstein energy of he succeeds in making the thing he wanted to cope with his mourning, but he then is in this like weird limbo of, okay, I did it. Now how do I actually like deal with what the thing I've made kind of deal?
Kill it.
Just kind of build it, then freak out and run away as soon as you get what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Frankenstein was a bitch.
Frankenstein
He
was like, gee, you did it. Like, at least don't be Drake. Be a good father. Like, teach it the world. Yeah, I was gonna work the Drake shit into here somehow. I don't know how we got to Frankenstein.
Memes.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Language is a meme.
Language is Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's a meme.
Frankenstein is a language.
French.
Shit, I don't like this anymore.
Oui, oui.